Good morning. It's 11 o'clock, so we're going to get started. Thank you for joining the New England Nursing Home Quality Care Collaborative. This is part 2 of our 2-part pain webinar series. My name is Sarah Durenick, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. Before we get started, I'm going to quickly review a few housekeeping items. This webinar will be recorded, and the presentation will be available within a few business days. I'll provide you with the details on accessing both at the end of this webinar. Part 1 of this webinar series is now available on our website. The phone lines will be on mute for the duration of the presentation. We ask that you please do not put your line on hold during the webinar. We will have a couple polling questions throughout the presentation. We encourage you to be ready to respond to each question. If you have a question at any point throughout the presentation, please enter it in the chat panel to the right of your screen. We will be monitoring and responding to questions and comments in chat, as well as spend time for questions at the end of the presentation. Lastly, if you find that the presentation is a little cut off, please use the plus or minus icons in the top right of the presentation window to adjust accordingly. As a reminder, your state QIN-QIO team is supporting members of the New England Nursing Home Quality Care Collaborative in several ways. This includes the various affinity groups that are open to all participants of the collaborative. For example, the Pain Affinity Group includes monthly 1-hour conference calls and meets quarterly for in-person workshops. We also have an affinity group focusing on reducing unnecessary antipsychotic medications, in which participants join monthly calls to talk through difficult resident cases and gain feedback from their peers and QIO experts. Our newest group, which starts next month, will focus on staff stability. We facilitate these topic-specific calls to provide you with a forum to share and ask questions as you continue working on your quality improvement goals. And we'll continue to facilitate these calls as long as there's a need from the group. If you're interested in joining one of these groups or would like to suggest a topic for a new affinity group, please contact your state QIN-QIO lead, and you can join a group at any time. As you're all aware, the foundation of the New England Nursing Home Quality Care Collaborative is based on QAPI. We have a polling question that will help us better assess our approaches to serving you and to support your efforts to improve resident pain as well as your overall QAPI program. Please take a moment to answer the polling question. Have you started a PIP, Performance Improvement Project, related to pain management in your facility? Please start the polling. You'll see the polling question to the right of your screen. After you've selected your answer, don't forget to hit the Submit button that's below your answer. As we wait for the polling results to generate, I wanted to remind you of all the helpful resources and education that we have on our website to support your quality improvement initiatives, including information on QAPI and pain management. If you haven't visited our website, you can find these free resources at healthcarefornewengland.org under nursing homes. We'll wait just a moment to get the results from the polling question. I wanted to highlight that we have a 3-step QAPI program that we've developed for the participants of the collaborative. Implementing your QAPI program doesn't have to be difficult, and it shouldn't be a time-consuming effort. You would be surprised with how much you're already doing now, and the QIN-QIO is here to help you frame the work you're doing and support you along the way. Your state QIN-QIO leads are here to help you, so please reach out to your state lead if you have any questions. And it looks like a bunch of you have already started a formal PIP as part of your QAPI program, so I want to congratulate you all on doing that. Now we're going to move on to today's program. This is the first time we're doing a two-part webinar series. We decided to do this because there's a lot of information that we wanted to share with you on the topic of pain, but we also wanted to provide an opportunity for you to digest the information from the first webinar and provide an opportunity for you to ask any follow-up questions that you have today, as well as share your own experiences. So the objectives for today's session include the opportunity to answer any remaining questions that you have from the April 14th webinar that we were not able to address live. You'll be hearing again from Pam Heckman. She'll be discussing some of the myths and beliefs about pain and how to avoid bias. She will also talk about clinical practice guidelines for pain management. Then we're excited to have one of our participants, Cheryl Edwards from Westview Nursing and Rehabilitation in Rhode Island, who will join us to share how they reduce resident pain. So I'm going to turn things over to you, Pam. Welcome back.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm going to let you forward the slides for me. On this particular slide we're looking at right now, it talks about a study that was done back in 1998. And in the beginning, when we started working on pain management in nursing homes, this was a pretty new idea about providing round-the-clock pain medication for residents who were having difficult behaviors. That particular test or pilot showed improvement in the residents' behavioral episodes and as well their need for psychoactive meds. So there's an improvement that has been noted in other studies, and in 2005, a study written up in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society found that providing round-the-clock Tylenol or acetaminophen, participants spent more time in social interaction, engaged with media such as television and movies, talked amongst themselves, engaged in work-like activity, and experienced unattended distress. They were not experiencing distress when they received the Tylenol as compared to those that received the placebo. And participants also spent less time in their rooms, less time removed from the nursing home unit, and less time having to have personal care activities performed because they were more cooperative. There were good effects on their emotional well-being, and there was a decrease in the psychotropic medication use. So the conclusion of that study reinforced this initial small study, and there's been future studies or further studies have been done to repeat that. So hopefully many of you are already doing this, but if you are having any residents with behavioral issues or who may be on psychoactive medications, consider that their behavior is a way of reaching out to you to communicate something, and it may be pain. Okay, next slide. There are many myths or beliefs about pain. These are just a couple of them. That chronic pain might mean death is near, so people are afraid to admit pain. Some people associate pain with the presence of a serious disease, so again, they don't want to acknowledge pain. Or acknowledging pain will mean undergoing intrusive and possibly painful tests, so they just keep it to themselves. Next slide. Another myth is that some staff or family members will say, well, the patients are saying they're in pain just to get attention. And then another myth is that elderly patients are likely to become addicted to the pain medication. Next slide. We need to consider that there's a difference between addiction, dependence, and tolerance. And this is something that we might want to provide information about to our families especially. The nursing home residents are most likely to develop a tolerance if medication is used long-term, not an addiction. And we also need to keep the biases of the caregivers out of the equation. Next slide. Chronic pain sufferers may look less in pain, even though they may rate their pain as being quite high. And we all know that the gold standard is that pain is what the person says it is, self-reporting pain. But we also need to be sure that we have satisfactorily educated and supported the resident to be able to use the pain scale in our facility to the best of the resident's ability. Next slide. In many nursing homes that I visit, I will hear about at least one resident who seems to be requesting a PRN pain medication on their way to an event or going out or maybe going to bingo. And the staff interpret the way the person looks as if they're not in pain and they don't understand why the resident is requesting the PRN pain medication. And I think that's when we need to step back and do some brainstorming about these individual residents. Is it possible that the resident's afraid that pain may develop while they're away or at the activity? Is the resident afraid that if they don't complain about pain, that you'll take away the scheduled pain meds or reduce the amount of their pain meds? Is it a trust issue? And until we can sit down and actually hold a conversation with a resident, make them feel comfortable, even have a person who the resident gets along with really well in the building to do that conversation, they may feel more comfortable talking to someone they've developed a rapport with. And really try to delve into what's going on. Next slide, please. Here are some definitions of tolerance, physical dependence, and addiction from a clinical psychopharmacological journal. And tolerance is defined as a decreased subjective and objective effect of the same amount of opioids used over time. A physical dependence represents a specific set of signs and symptoms, such as opioid withdrawal, that can occur when you suddenly stop an opioid or are rapidly reducing an opioid or giving an opioid antagonist. So then the resident will show these specific signs. Addiction is the chronic disease that represents an idiosyncratic adverse reaction in biologically and psychosocially vulnerable individuals. So we can't just automatically jump to the risk of addiction with our residents. There's often other issues going on. Okay, next page. Next slide. AMDA, the American Medical Directors Association, has many really useful clinical guidelines, and their one on pain management is particularly helpful. It was updated in 2012, and there's a PowerPoint presentation that discusses that guideline that's available to you for free online at this website, amda.com. And you can also purchase the clinical practice guidelines through AMDA, and those are not that expensive. I think they're run around $25. You can get them at a discount if your medical director or a physician is a member of AMDA, and that might be worth looking at as well. Okay, the next slide. These are several different clinical guidelines in addition to the AMDA clinical practice guideline. And basically, they all say the same thing. They're consistent with one another and are also consistent with the Joint Commission pain management standards. So if you have any one of these standards of care clinical guidelines, you should use it and refer to it. Next slide. One barrier that I've recognized with the nursing homes over time is trying to get the medical director and physicians to support the nurses in providing round-the-clock medication, for example, to a resident, especially the SNF patients that come in and the doctors want to order PRN meds. And we all know that giving PRN pain meds to, say, a post-surgical patient is not always the best answer because it causes their pain to go up and down the roller coaster effect. So one suggestion is to present one or two of these guidelines to the medical director and then schedule a discussion with your nursing team and the medical director about the standard of care for pain in your building. And once the standard has been agreed upon by the facility and the medical director, then you can provide some education, fax it out or mail it out to all the doctors, nurse practitioners, via mail, periodic newsletters or announcements, and try to get the whole team, so to speak, on the same page. Okay, next slide. I'm sort of anticipating some questions, so I'm going to stop here and wait for Sarah to open it to questions at whatever point in the webinar she's going to do that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pam. If you have questions, you can enter them in chat, and we'll be opening up the lines later on in the call to ask questions as well. I'm happy to now introduce to you Cheryl Edwards. She's the Director of Nurses at Westview Nursing and Rehabilitation Center in West Warwick, Rhode Island. Cheryl has been with the Westview team since they first opened their doors 38 years ago and admitted their first resident. She's been the DON since 1999, and we're happy to have her join us today to share what their team is doing to manage resident pain and how they got to where they are today. Welcome, Cheryl, and I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, everyone. As Sarah said, I am the Director of Nurses at Westview Nursing and Rehab, but in 1978, I was one of the charge nurses on the unit. We are a 120-bed facility with 36 rehab beds and 84 long-term beds. Our team makes every effort to be involved in every aspect of care with our residents, and including embracing a holistic approach to individualized care. We also use alternate methods of pain management. Next slide. I just want to share with you our mission, vision, and values, and like everyone else, we live by these. We created these with the help of our staff. We did not make them up, or they came from what we were doing. So we took what we were doing and put it into words. So our biggest of note there is that we are a resident's partner, and we try to get everybody to use those words because with our short-term rehab residents, we want them to understand we're their partners and we're not there to do everything for them, that we're there to help them achieve their highest level. And with our long-term residents, it's our goal for them to maintain their level and to make the end of their life the best it can be. So, next slide. So why pain? So pain became the fifth vital sign. So through the years, pain management's always been a focus, but when quality measures became public in the early 2000s, we knew we did not want anyone to live with uncontrolled pain. And as many of you remember, it became that fifth vital sign. So we began working closely with our QIO in Rhode Island, and we've not looked back. So we could not get enough education, and our quality improvement in regards to pain became our way of life. Next slide. So what did our data say? Our data said that we can and should do better. We knew that. So with our data, we were looking behind us and not in front of us. So we had to look at being proactive and review the data that was real time. So this is where we all came together to keep each other in the loop. So from the MDS coordinator to the floor staff to our MDs to right down to our residents. Always the resident came first. Next slide. So now we're going to take a moment to have another polling question and ask if everybody's familiar with the Mather Lifeways LEAP program. So if you could start the poll. As we wait for the polling results to generate, if you're using this program in your facility, please share that with us on the chat how it has helped your team.
It takes just a moment to get the results from the chat. From the poll, so let's hold on for just one moment.
So where was culture change? That's where this is what we were working on at the same time we were working on pain. So it was very exciting and overwhelming for our nursing facilities. We not only became focused on quality measures, but we were introduced to culture change and how we could make an even better difference. So what were we doing at that time? We were working on staff appreciation. That was a focus. So we, in our facility, created a Just For You program that acknowledged staff stability. Without a stable staff, we could and cannot make a difference in the lives of the people we take care of. We recognize, appreciate, promote health and wellness, try to make a fun, safe place to work, and we had discounts on various local establishments. At the same time, we were working on consistent assignment, so truly consistent where the staff have the privilege of caring for the residents, the same people every day that they are working, and they also have a partner that they're working with. So we also taught the Mather Lifeways LEAP program. That's why we asked about that. So that was a program. It was a method of working smarter, not harder. There were two aspects of the program. One was growing the heart of care with the CNAs, and one was seeing a nurse as a leader. It does not look like a lot of people use that program, but it was very helpful for us in creating that culture of caring. We also improved our dining experience. We changed our dining room so that we had many choices. So our residents in the dining room were offered a more broader menu. We also started serving our meals right on the nurse's floor, which brought our dietary staff right up in with the residents, so that made them more in tune with what was going on. We were also looking at our environment. So we have, in our place, we created a very welcoming entrance where families and staff can gather. When you come into our building, we're lucky you're not walking onto a patient floor. What you smell is food cooking. So you're not in that patient care area. We took the linen carts away and made them look like furniture. These are just a few things that we did. We also removed our nurses' stations and created a seating area. So that took our nurses out of right in the middle of the action. So next slide, please. So at the same time, we were looking at our pain. And what did we want to put in our bag of tricks to work up for pain? In the beginning, we did what others did, but we quickly noted we wanted to look outside of the box. So nobody had a big budget. So what did we do to look at pain outside of medication? We created comfort carts. In those carts, we had simple things like hot and cold packs. We had lotions, and we had lotions that, with aromatherapy as well. So we used lavender. We used low-cost items that we could do. We also created an atmosphere where we could try and do more one-on-one, which everybody knows is a big stretch when you're in your very busy day. Next slide, please. So continuing to think outside the box, we created an ACT program, which we call the Alternate Comfort Therapy Program. So we wanted to look at that to address all aspects of pain and discomfort in our long-term and our short-term residents. So our goal was to increase the comfort level of our residents through various therapies offered by our team. So with that team, we have nurses, CNAs, we have a psychiatrist that helps with pain control, we have a massage therapist, Reiki practitioners, we have a chaplain, and a pharmacist. So we incorporated every one of these people into our alternate comfort therapies that we have in our facility. So next slide, please. So part of our ACT program, there are 3 important characteristics of our ACT program. On our staff, we have 2 massage therapists, and we just recently hired a 3rd massage therapist that works for us per diem. In the beginning, we offered the massage therapy just to the staff. That was part of our Just For You program. But one of my CNAs was in massage therapy school. As she finished her massage therapy, she wanted to stay within the long-term care population, and she pitched it to myself and the administrator, why don't we use this on our residents? So at that point, we implemented a referral form, and we started there, and we never looked back with our massage therapist. And right now, she's an integral part of not only our short-term rehab team, but our palliative care team. And our staff are very comfortable approaching our residents and talking to them about this. So our massage therapist works closely, again, with our rehab team. So you can come to our facility as a short-term rehab patient, use your pain medication, but we're also going to come in and assess you to see what else we can do for you. We also, over the course of time, have 2 Reiki master teachers on our staff, of which I am one of them, as well as our massage therapist. And our goal is to teach all of our staff Reiki, because Reiki is a form of energy healing that can be done at any time of any day, on the fly, when you're working with your resident. So not every resident can have a massage, but they could all have Reiki. And compassionate touch is a combination of massage therapy and Reiki, and it's all about one-on-one. Next slide. So again, these are the things that are included in our ACT program. We do have a whirlpool. The whirlpool is a stretch because we cannot always get our residents to use the whirlpool. So one of the things in the future that we're working on is possibly a spa day so they can go from the whirlpool to the massage therapist. So that's the goal. Aroma music therapy are big in our facility. Our chaplain provides emotional and spiritual support. Our activities program has facials and manicures. So every aspect of our facility is involved in that. Next slide. So how do we stay on top of our program? All of our rehab residents, we do the 3-day assessment. We monitor our residents' PRN use, and as you heard earlier, our short-term residents, they don't always want around-the-clock therapy, so you do have to talk them into it. We do try at all costs to schedule pain medication. If the doctor, the resident, and all the stars align, we can do that. We do have a good relationship with our MDs, and we have the beauty of having a pharmacist on staff, so she does help us with the recommendations. Education is big. We educate our families. We educate our residents. We also have our own therapy program now, so we have consistent therapists. And our bag of tricks is overflowing. We always look at our data. Our goal is for all our residents to be at acceptable pain level. So some of our residents live with pain. I had a lady the other day that I was talking to, and I was trying to talk her into using her 1 extra dose of her tramadol. She didn't want to, but she did accept the warm blanket. She did accept some one-on-one. She did say she'd take a rest in her chair in the afternoon, but those are her choices, so we always do look at that. We follow our CASPER reports. We look at our QI/QNs. I'm happy to say that in our long-term residents, we always have very little pain, and when someone does flag for pain, everybody's on that case. Next slide. So if you look at our bag of tricks from then to today, it's pretty big. And some things will cost. You have to look at the cost of it. A massage therapist is in the same money area as a nurse. So sometimes you have to look at things like that. What works best for you, what doesn't. Some of these things are very low cost. So again, you have to look at what you want in your bag of tricks, but you can start small and go big if you want to. Next slide. These show our moderate to severe pain and long stay. As you can see, we are way above. We don't like those blips in the road where we get up to the tooth. But as a rule, we have 0 to 1 residents flagging on long-term pain. Next slide. Short stay. Short stay is a tough call, and you have to work on it all the time. When you do a very busy rehab like we do, and you have 30, 40 admissions and discharges in a month, you're constantly having residents that are coming in, and with the new guidelines and people staying less than 7 to 10 days, you can't always get that under control. So it is a tough call every day. So next slide. What's next? I'm happy to say that we have redone our massage room and have moved it. Our initial massage room was a tub that we never used, that we altered to make a massage table. The only problem with that is nobody could get up on it because it was too high. So I'm happy to say we do have a table that we can now raise and lower. Staff education is constant, and staying on top of it is what we do every day. I'm happy to say that we do have a good palliative care team. Thanks to our QIO again, we do have certified hospital palliative care nurses in my facility, so we do work very hard at our residents. So I'd like to thank the QIO for this opportunity. For the next slide. And good luck, everybody.
Thank you, Cheryl. If anyone has any questions for Cheryl, we'll be opening up the lines in just a moment, or you can ask your questions right now via chat. Before we start Q&A, as a reminder, we have a variety of education and resources and tools available on our website for you to use. This is where you can find the pain assessment checklist, the pain medication administration record, and the pain assessment tool to use for residents with dementia, all of which Pam discussed during our last webinar. In addition, the newly updated quality measures manual is now available up on our website. This is a helpful resource that the New England QIN-QIO developed for you to better understand how a resident triggers for each of the QMs. If you have any questions about any of these tools, please add your question to the chat, and we can address them once we open the lines. So right now, we're going to start addressing any questions that we have in the chat, and then we'll open up the lines in just a moment. It looks like we have a question asking, are there any other alternative pain therapies that people are using, and if you would share? So anyone on the line, if you want to add in chat, if you have any other alternative pain therapies that you're using, and if you would like to share them with the group, if you can put that in chat. We also have a question for Cheryl. How did your building get reimbursed for the Reiki and massage therapy?
We don't. It's complimentary. The facility absorbs the cost of it.
Does the absorbing the cost outweigh?
The benefits outweigh the expense of the cost.
Thank you, Cheryl. We have another question from Christopher Ryan. What are SNFs with younger psych residents, 40 to 60 age range, doing to help lower and control pain? If there's anyone who has a similar population who's on the line, if you can share what you're doing in chat. Pam, do you have anything that you can share related to the nursing homes that you're working with in New Hampshire? If there's anyone else from the QIO on the line, if you can share via chat.
Sarah, this is Pam. I think that This is an area that I haven't seen too much of here locally, but I'm sure that there are some patients that are more challenging than others, and I think part of the answer is trying to sit down with them and make sure that you've educated them. I think our pain screen tool that we have available on the website is very helpful for talking to the resident about what our goals are for their pain and what we're expecting when they report pain at a specific level, kind of identifies what their symptoms might be. And, you know, some people are adamant that 10 is a 10 and they're not going to change their mind. Others, I think once they realize that they can trust you and give you an honest answer, they might not be saying it's a 10. And then there are people who are living in chronic, quite severe pain all the time. So there's quite the variety there.
Thank you, Pam. It looks like we went through the questions in chat. So I'm going to turn the line over to Morgan so that she can open up lines for you to ask questions over the phone. Also, if you'd like to share your questions via chat, we will still keep an eye on those questions as well. Morgan, I'm turning it over to you.
All right, so please bear with me as I change these lines over so that you guys can ask questions.
The leader has turned lecture off and your line has been unmuted. The leader has muted your line. To unmute your line, press #6.
All right, you should have heard a command that all the lines have been muted, but if you did want to go ahead and ask a question, please press #6 on your phone to ask the question. Also make sure you haven't manually hit your own mute button on your phone. Again, it's #6 to ask a question.
So while we're waiting for people to ask their questions on the line, we have another question in chat. Are residents requesting the use of medical marijuana for pain?
Not there.
Again, to unmute your line, press #6 to share, or you can share via chat. Do we have any other questions that you would like to ask over the phone? We would also like to answer any of the questions that we were unable to address on the April 14th webinar. So if you did have a question that we were not able to get to, please ask your question in chat, or you can ask your question live on the line by pressing #6 to unmute your line. We'd also like to hear from the group about what you've been working on in your facility as it relates to reducing resident pain. We'd love to hear what your best practices are and what you've had in terms of successes. So please feel free to share in chat or unmute your line, press #6.
A pharmacy that delivers payment.
Just a reminder, all the lines have been opened, so to mute your line, press *6. We hear a little background noise. Does anyone have any additional questions before we end our call? So, if you have any questions that you think of after the session is done, please feel free to contact your state lead. Thank you all for joining today's session. I have just a few last announcements before we end the webinar. You will receive a follow-up email with a link to a very brief survey about today's webinar. We ask that you please complete it. This is very important. Your feedback can help us improve these sessions and provide you with meaningful programs. Also, within the next few business days, we will send out an email to everyone with links to both today's presentation and a recording of this webinar. I'm just going to look to see if we have any other questions before we get off the line, because we are ending a little early. It looks like we have another question that without federal regulation, the assumption is that no nursing home can approve the use of medical marijuana to address pain in nursing homes. So that was just a response to the previous question that we had. And another, Kim Maloney, mentioned that she has had no episodes of residents requesting medical marijuana as of yet. So we'll see if that changes in the future. So we don't have any other questions in chat. If anyone has joined the line and wants to ask a question, please feel free, or we can end our call early. It looks like we have no additional calls on the line, so thank you again for attending, and have a great day.